to sort of set this up, I wanted to quickly tell you a little bit about me and give you some background, because I actually became a trainer and a coach 10 years ago now, just over 10 years ago now, because I launched this training and coaching business in sort of the throes of the GFC, which was quite an interesting time to try and launch a business. And one of the things that I noticed, and one of the things that I talked about in the conversation me and Chris had a couple of days ago that got posted on LinkedIn, was this whole idea about how things change when money tightens up in a society. And really what I stumbled across, I guess, when I was finding my feet as a trainer, was this whole idea of how to sell to emotional desires, how to really engage people and engage your prospects or your customers in a new and in a different way, and move away from a sort of features and benefits sales process. Because what happened post GFC was people, when money became tight, people became much more discerning about what they were spending their money on, and they wanted real clarity around how it would help them to get to where they wanted to get to. So there are two themes for today, and the first theme is we buy on emotion. Now, the old conversation or the old sort of sales rhetoric used to go, we buy on emotion and we justify with logic. And I spent years trying to go, what does that actually mean? And this process, the ideas I'm going to share with you this morning, are a really good example of buying on emotion and justifying with logic. So that's the real core theme here. We really do buy on emotion, and we really do justify our decisions with logic. So we need a combination of emotion and logic in the sales process. And the second thing I wanted to talk about is that sales aren't about you. The thing that I saw most commonly when I went and talked to businesses about selling and pitching and influencing and things like that was their starting point was, we've got a great product, or we've got a great service, or we've got this, or we've got that. And I had a really funny lesson that I learned pretty quickly about, it's just not about me. And my lesson, and again, I shared this with Chris the other day, but just as a quick recap, my lesson was, the first job that I got was actually as a coach in about late 2008. So the GFC has hit. I'm starting off in media agencies and ad agencies. And unfortunately, I had to start off doing a bit of redundancy coaching. It wasn't my specialty, but the HR director said, hey, if you can help these 3 or 4 people, we'll talk about widening the engagement. I'm like, awesome, let's work with them. And I worked with them and it went well. And she called me into her office one day and said, now, Marcus, I have a question for you. Do you do training? And I'm like, yes. I've got this brilliant training thing. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a program I'm just developing, and it's really, really good. It's about how you can profile your customers more powerfully so that you can really engage with them. And she looked at me and she went, nah, we don't want that. Sorry. And I'm like, darn, I really lost that opportunity pretty quickly. Because what I was doing in that moment was I was going, here's what I've got, here's what I'm interested in, rather than, hey, what do you want? What are you interested in? Now, I know as a salesperson, and I've said this a lot, and as a trainer as well, is nobody really cares about me. I'm old enough and mature enough to go, I'm okay with that. You don't care about me. What you really care about is, what do I have in my head that helps you go from where you are right now to where you want to get to? And that whole conversation around really putting the focus off of me and putting it onto you really changes the whole sales process in a fairly massive way. So just understanding that, you know, there are hundreds of sales trainers, thousands of sales trainers, hundreds in Melbourne, probably thousands in Australia, tens of thousands, maybe 1 million or 2 across the planet. And it's just about understanding that there are so many choices you could of sales trainer that you could make. Why would you choose me? And that's why it's so important just to step into that. It's really not about me. It's only about you. And it's only about you and fulfilling your emotional desires. Because once you realize that, once you step into that place, that changes the dynamic of the conversation. Another really quick story is I learned a massive lesson. So Brian Tracy, who's quite a well-known American sort of sales business guru, I started to read and um, really dive into his content a lot when I was starting out. And he talked about this one idea, which is if the focus is on you and what you get out of the deal, the focus is on the wrong thing. And I took this to heart. And then one day I had this disaster because I was working with this new business director. It was going really well. He was flying me around the globe. He was a global new business director for a massive agency. And I was working with them. And what happened was is uh, he set me to do a task, which I did, and I sent in an invoice before he had requested it. So literally, it was a very small thing to do, but it meant that I was putting the emphasis back on what I wanted out of the deal, and it took it off what he wanted out of the deal. And not only did he not pay the invoice, but he never spoke to me again. So I really learned a massive lesson in that moment about it's really not about me. So those are the two key themes today. And what we're going to talk about, of course, is how do you sell to emotional desires? How do you engage people emotionally so that they really actually end up selling themselves on your product, your service, your offering?